welcome to the Center for Victory podcast of Your Best Day Yet. Here at Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. My name is Zack Del Turco. I'm an executive consultant here at the Center for Victory, and today we have the one and only Eric back for part 2. And in this month, we're talking about giving, generosity, and gratitude. So we hope you guys enjoy. But today we're going to be focusing on part 2 of your book that's coming out here hopefully in the next couple weeks. And hopefully.
If not, that's good.
Yeah, it's coming out. But we're talking about giving. Your
Right.
book is all about giving. So let's start off with this.
Mm-hmm.
How does giving change our mindsets?
That's a great question. I mean, the biggest thing that it does is when you start giving, it takes you from a mindset of scarcity to that of abundance. And we mentioned it just a little bit in that first podcast, the beginning of a couple days ago, but really going from fear to love. I mean, a lot of people, when we look at it, we spend our lives in this fear-based mentality. If people want to move to more of a love-based mentality, it really behooves you to be a giver, and it kind of isn't optional. What's funny about this is, being that my background is in social work and things, and I've worked with a lot of families, and I've worked in a lot of residential settings. I've been overseas and worked with a lot of kids that have experienced trauma, especially around food or not having enough. So they didn't get enough. So what happens with these kids typically is when they get adopted or put into foster care, when you don't have enough, you just keep consuming. And the fear that most parents and foster families have and professionals have is, well, they're never going to stop eating, right? They're just going to get fat, and they're not going to be healthy. And what we've done, and it's just a simple technique, but it goes hand in hand with what you're talking about, is one of the techniques we've used is once that kid is absolutely full at the dinner table, you just take another spoon, right, and put it on their plate. And what that does in their mind after a couple weeks is they slow down. They realize that they actually don't have to, there's going to be enough.
Wow.
And it shifts their mindset. And they might not be able to articulate it because it happens with really small kids too, but I've seen it happen with small kids. I've seen it happen with teenagers. It's just incredible, okay? Because when we hold it back, they just want more. And that's kind of how our society is. But it's the same way that works for us, that we need a mindset of abundance, that there's always enough. And that's what giving does. It starts to work in our life. The more you give, the more you get back, and you start to see it that way. You don't see things in scarcity ways, and if you watch the news, scarcity sells. I mean, we live in the richest country in the world.
Yeah.
And we're so much of a scarcity mindset, and if we just started giving a little bit more, what we would do, not only would it change in our mind where we go from scarcity to abundance, but it starts to impact our lives. We start to become happier. We start to become more successful. It even enriches our relationships. It makes your relationships better. Nobody wants somebody like a stingy Scrooge around, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody loves a giver.
Yep.
And
Everybody wants to be friends with a giver.
Yeah,
right.
right. For sometimes the wrong reasons, but not only does it impact your relationships, I think it impacts your relationships in a good way, because the more you're around givers, the more that other people give, and you start just giving more as a collective group.
That is so powerful to think about. That first example you brought up about people who are adopted and the scarcity that comes around that. I've never in a million years would I guess that if you would just give them more and more and more.
They have to be consistent with
Yeah.
it. You can't be fear-based with it. You just got to give it and wait for it to happen. But sometimes it would literally be after a week, after a couple weeks, after a month. But just like we get so much tied into their scarcity that we perpetuate the thing that we want to prevent.
That's so true, because I remember growing up, my parents would never have sweets in the house. And my Aunt Beth and Uncle Ken, they lived 2 minutes away. And I would run over to their house every single day, and they had Ho-Hos and Nutty Buddy bars. And I would just sit in the closet and eat those things. But it's because I never knew if they were going to be there tomorrow. Because my mom and dad never allowed me.
Is that right? I hope your mom doesn't watch this.
So you talked a little bit about how giving can change your mindset, right? How can giving play a part of your overall health?
Wait, and I kind of want to back up because
Okay.
I had two great examples of giving and somebody and some people that were happy. Now I've had more than two, but the two that stick out the most were both of my grandmothers. I mean, because I wouldn't say that they had a lot, but they gave a lot.
And what do you mean by that? Was it financial, time, resource, attention, energy?
In different ways. I mean, I just remember both of them were very, very religious, and so they always tithe regardless of whatever they had, and I saw it. I saw them do it. I don't think they necessarily wanted me to see that, but I'm always been a watcher. I mean, I just observe. That sounds weird, doesn't it? I've always been a watcher. That sounds a little creepy.
Kind of like a stalker.
But to be an observer, like I always saw them, and they never did it with reluctance. I mean, they just gave and gave, and they gave of their time. Both of them I've always talked to. I mean, the one, my one grandmother just passed away this year, and she just gave up until the time she died. She was always a giver. I mean, just knitting things for children in the hospital, just anything they were, and I didn't even know how much they gave until she passed away. Wow. It was just incredible. They were just always givers. So with that in mind, what it does to our mindset and what I saw in them is that you don't worry. Like they were never worried about anything, even though they didn't have much. They were happy, and they brought that happiness into my life. And you see people that have so much and they're miserable. I really believe that's because they don't give, right? They just hoard. But there's scientific data, so. And I always, I'll put it in Eric terms. When we give, we get high. Like, let's get high together, right?
Why not?
Right. But it really, it's referred to as a helper's high. It really is a scientific fact. You can look it up. It's just a physical sensation associated with helping others. What's cool about it is it's just nature's built-in reward system, and there's some things that studies have found that the health benefits associated with giving to think about. I mean, lower blood pressure, increased self-esteem, less depression, lower stress levels, greater happiness, and longer life. I mean, my grandmother was, 89 years old, and when she passed away, she was married for 70 years, and she was happy. So maybe it has an impact there, of being giving, but it really does impact our health. And it can impact it in big ways when we're a giver.
Yeah. So, you talked a little bit about you saw your grandparents giving. What happens to those people who never saw or had the example of somebody who was a giver? What are some of the first steps that person can do to create that legacy and create a new blessing within their life and their family?
Well, most people want more. We want success, we want joy, we want happiness, and that's what we help people work on. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to want. I'm just, if you want more, then give more. And that could be little things. It doesn't have to be money all the time. People just rush to money all the time and resources in their head. It could be time. It could be of your labor. If you're really good at something, just being able to do that. I can't fix anybody's car, but I can certainly listen. Right? I mean, you just told me a story this morning before we started recording about how you just were there for somebody that you don't know real well. You just listen for 45 minutes. I mean, right? It was good to be doing that. And I'd say if you want to start small, just over the next 30 days, just start with really small things. I mean, it could be a smile, and you don't know how that impacts somebody. I have another story here. Last week I was traveling, and I went through Atlanta, and I went into the Delta Sky Club.
This is a paid promotion.
It's not. But I was exhausted. I mean, I had been on the road for a couple of days, and I was exhausted. I think it was 9:30 at night, just waiting for another hour to get my plane back to Pittsburgh. And I hear this lady's voice as I walked in, and I didn't know where it was coming from because I'm so tired. She's like, "Sir, over here." And I looked behind me, it was her. She was smiling, and I smiled back at her. And she said, "You're a little bit tired." I said, "I'm a lot of bit tired."
Yeah.
And she said, "I just love your smile." And I went in, got something to eat, and I was coming back through to my plane. And I was going out the door, and I said, "See you, bye." She said, "Wait a second." And, it touched my heart because she said, "Come here, young man." One, that was beautiful that she called me young man. And she said, "Look, I just want you to go home. If your mother's still around, tell her she did a really good job raising you." She said, "I love your smile."
Wow.
So it was just that one thing. And what was funny, she said, "Come here and give me a hug." I hugged her over the counter. It was such a great moment, but it's still, here I'm still telling a story a week and a half later.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, but I absolutely just, I fell in love with the person that she is. But she gave me that, and it was just a back and forth, and I got filled up. And what's funny about that, I was so filled up. I usually fall asleep on a plane. I didn't fall asleep when I was tired. So it was good. But over the next 30 days, just small.
Yep.
It could be a smile. It could be just some comforting, whatever it might be.
Small things, big difference.
Small things, big difference. Look at you, man. Look at you with these.
How do you get to a mouth? One step at a time.
Just filled with wisdom this morning.
Feel it. So as we finish up, give us some highlights, some bullet points that people can take and really apply to their day-to-day lives.
Yeah. Number one, shift your mindset. Go from consumer to creator. If you want to feel better, give better. Okay?
That's good.
Don't expect anything in return. It's going to come, but don't expect it. Give from a place of love. And then lastly, start small. Remember, giving, as I said in the last podcast, giving is the spice of life. If you want to be successful, happy, and joyful, just give.
That's awesome. And I want to leave you guys with this quote by Winston Churchill. He says this: "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we can give."
Oh, that's good.
That is so good. So thank you guys so much for staying tuned to our Center for Victory podcast of Your Best Day Yet. Leave a comment in the section below. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are about giving. You can also hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we have new videos coming on. But you can also follow us on all of our social medias at Center for Victory. You can also go to our website at centerforvictory.com. And we want to leave you with this quote. We'll say it together.
Wherever you're at,
whatever you're doing,
make this your best day yet. See ya.